Good afternoon. First, I want to thank Joseph asked me to be here today to share a topic that I care a lot about, that means a lot to me. I'll tell you why later. So it's related to later depression in older Chinese adults. Let me begin by that will be what I'm going to cover today. Okay, we'll talk about what is depression. What causes it, how prevalent it is in the older Chinese populations, and how do I assess? Is it depression different from low mood or sadness? How do I tell someone is have at risk of depression? And is it treatable? Okay, if this important topic, how to treat depression. And depression is highly related to another topic about suicide, so I will talk quite a bit about that. And then at the end, I want to tell you a project that's still ongoing in rural China, that we are working on providing depression intervention for older people with depression in rural China. So first of all, is it okay to hear me at the back? Do I need the speaker? You're fine, right? Hey, cool. I don't like that thing that much. Okay, so help me out here. I don't want to be just monologue. I want you to participate. So first, let's talk about depression. What is depression? Give me some idea. What do you think about it?
Don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm. What other? What comes to your head when you think about depression?
Helpless.
Huh?
Helpless.
Healthy?
Helpless.
Helpless. Okay, good. Yeah.
Lack of interest.
In bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of interest of doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
The confusion.
Mm-hmm.
As though any appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Feel sad.
Mm-hmm. Anything else coming in?
Don't want to interact with anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nobody to interact with.
Mm-hmm. You feel like nobody to interact with. Yeah. Okay, you describe lots of symptoms. Any other things about depression that come to your head?
Just general poor health and poor living habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sedentary lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yeah. No reason to live. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sedentary living style. Yeah. Anything? It's all the symptoms. Anything come to your mind about depression in older people?
Always be anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you. There's lots of symptoms you describe, so you save me a lot of time later on. Okay, some people think that, hey, as you get older, you're depressed. It's just normal, As we get old, we experience a lot of life changes. Your health may decline. You may lose loved ones, friends. Okay, so of course you get depressed. It's just normal. It's normal part of aging. Okay, there's someone think that. Or some people think that, oh, depression is not real. It's all in your head. Okay, it's right here. It's not really a medical problem. Have you heard about this kind of thinking? Mm-hmm. Or some people think that, well, low mood, everyone has that. Being sad sometimes, mood fluctuate, have low mood, it's just like that. It's life. It's, nothing to be very concerning. And also there's a thought that, well, only when bad things happen, you get depressed. In other words, if things go well, there's no reason to be depressed. There's no depression. There's some people think that, okay, so it only happen to times or to people that bad things happen to them. Or, okay, depression, oh, okay, time will heal everything. You're depressed, but it will go away. Just hang in there, it will go away. Or thinking about dealing with depression, okay, if you're strong enough, you snap out of depression. Okay, just think positively. Have you heard about that? Or thinking, okay, don't talk about it, depression. You talk about it, you make it worse. Okay, just avoid the topic, avoid thinking about that, then you're fine. Or, okay, hey, depression. You cannot treat depression in older people. You know, they're just depressed. Okay, that's treatment, but that's mostly working for younger people, but for older people, it usually don't work. Okay. Okay, these are all myths. So I'm going to debug it today. Okay, this is a common thinking about depression, particularly applied to older people. Okay, these are myths. Okay, I hope by the end of this lecture you will understand or come to the reasons why these are myths. First, depression is a disease. It's a medical problem. It's often chronic and comorbid. Chronic means that the likelihood of reoccurrence actually are high, particularly if you have already 1 or 2 episodes of depression. The likelihood that you have more later on is high. So it's a chronic illness. And it's comorbid, meaning that it often coexists with other disorders. The most often is hypertension, heart disease, and diabetes. Okay, they are just coexist. So depression is a medical problem, just like other illness, chronic illness, arthritis, hypertension, diabetes. Okay, in the same category, they are not same category, but they're same nature in terms of chronicity as well as comorbidity. And also, depression itself is not just a low mood, it passes, all this thing. No, depression, people with depression find it very hard to function daily, hard to play their role as a worker or as a spouse or as a parent. Okay, and even finding it very hard to really get up in the bed, outside the bed, or perform daily life activities. Okay, so it's not just everyone has that, so you'll pass. No, it affects the daily functioning, and also depression untreated can have very serious impact on physical health. It's a cause of disability, and cognitive health. It is very much related to dementia. Study has shown that depression is a strong predictor of premature death. Okay, die from suicide as well as from other type of reasons. Okay, so increase the mortality. Depression has this predictability. So in other words, that's the first message I want to tell you. It's not normal. You know, you get old, we got life change, but depression itself is not a normal part of aging. It doesn't come with aging. It is a disease. Okay, the symptom of depression, you guys have told me a lot already, so I don't need to cover too much. Okay, the textbook definition of depression is that if more than 2 weeks, this person has either a persistent sadness or lost interest in the activities they used to like. Okay, either this symptom plus one of these symptoms in this different aspect. In the physical symptoms, like lost appetite, feeling very tired, have insomnia, or sleeping too much. Okay, these are physical side symptoms, or behavioral side symptoms, such as kind of withdrawing from family, friends, slowing down, don't want to move too much. This behavior, or feeling-wise, kind of moody, or excessive worries, okay, concern, anxious. Just told me, feeling helpless, that kind of feeling, or for no reason, always tearful. Or in the thought aspect, in the thinking aspect, have difficulty concentrating, hard to make decision, negative thought, overwhelmed, or even have suicidal thought. These are symptoms. So the textbook definition is that if you have one of these symptoms, plus one of these two major one, right, plus one of this, and the symptom lasts more than 2 weeks, that is signs that it may be depression. Okay. For Chinese particularly, okay, Chinese don't like to talk about I'm sad. Okay, they don't like to talk about emotions and feeling that much. particularly older Chinese. So it's hard to detect depression in older Chinese adult because they don't really want to talk about how, their inside feeling part. So they always exhibit depressive symptom in this way, in more physical, somatic side. Complain about aches and pain with no specificity. Okay, cannot find a reason. Or complain about don't want to eat, no appetite, or tired, fatigue. That kind of symptoms, is more prominent in the older Chinese adult. So you can imagine these symptoms, many other illnesses have all similar symptoms, right? If you feel tired, you don't have appetite, you don't sleep well, there can be many other symptoms. That's one reason, depression in older people, in Chinese older people in particular, very hard to detect, because, people will think about, you may be, some of your, is it diabetes, is your hypertension, is all your other kind of illnesses, okay, and probably if you're lucky, find the right diagnosis. Maybe related to depression. Okay, so how do we assess, given the difficulty to detect depression, because the symptoms similar to many other illnesses, how do you tell whether someone is at risk of depression? Okay, I would ask Joseph, can you circulate those things for you? I want you to do an exercise, okay, if you're interested. How's that?
Okay.
Okay?
It's a questionnaire.
It's a $50 charge.
Okay.
No, I'm depressed.
Now, as I said, depression is a disease.
We will be paying.
Such like hypertension. How do you know you have heart disease or hypertension? How do you know? You use a monitor, right? Blood pressure monitor to read the readings, to kind of assess whether you are at risk of hypertension. This same thing here. This tool is a very simple tool. It's called PHQ-9. It's a screening instrument, to see whether this individual is at risk of depression. It doesn't take long. You can try it to see how long it takes you to fill this out. It's 9 questions.
We just had Thanksgiving,
Yeah?
so we've eaten a lot of food in the last.
Aha!
Overeating.
Yeah.
Oh, we need a pen.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you borrow your neighbor? If not, just
Okay.
going through for now.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. So nice.
Okay, I'm timing. See how long it takes you. Usually it doesn't take long, but it depends. Like, you don't need to share your answer to anyone. Just keep it to yourself for now.
Everyone wants to get an A score.
Okay.
You sure?
For number 7, so trouble concentrating on things. So these only refer to the entertainment thing, like you mentioned reading newspaper or watching television, or it related to your work. I mean, this on things. So what
All kinds of things. All kinds of
things.
things, yes. So it gives you some example, like watching TV or reading an article or something like that. It's just example, but kind of in general, problem concentrating. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to give me the sheet, just keep it for yourself. And are you almost done? Let me tell you how to interpret those scores. Okay, so you compute the total score from your sheet, see what's the total. There are many ways to, kind of fancy way of interpretation, but I'm going to give you a very straightforward way to interpret. Okay, if the score is 10 or above, more than 10, I would suggest this individual to go see a doctor. It's not laughing matter. I mean, really, it means that this person is at risk for moderate to severe depression. So you should go see a doctor for evaluation of depression. Okay, particularly the higher the score, it means more severe. Okay, so 5 to 9 is mild symptoms. Okay, you can just watchful. Okay, I'm not talking about you. If you do this for another person, you suspect to be have an inclination for depression. That's a good way to see what action you should take, given the scores. Okay, so if 10 and above, particularly if you go in this score, 15 or more, I really think you should really take this person to go see a doctor for a formal diagnosis. Okay, these are just screening tool. Okay, it's not diagnosis. A diagnosis of depression requires the trained professionals, doctors or mental health professionals, because they have to exclude other reasons for the symptoms. You remember all those symptoms in the prior slides? Other disease can cause these symptoms, right? So a formal diagnosis have to exclude those diseases, or exclude is due to medication, because some medicine can cause these symptoms. So you have to exclude that. Also consider the whole real life social situation the person is in. So a formal diagnosis requires a trained professional to do. But if using this very simple tool, the person has more than 10 score, I think, encourage this person or accompany this person to go see a professional, a doctor, for formal diagnosis. Okay, health preference, depression in older Chinese adult. Okay, I put it here. In the older Chinese Americans in here, about 11 to 20% exhibit significant symptoms. What's meant by significant symptoms? Remember, these are screening tools. They are not formal diagnosis, which means that they are at risk of depression. Okay, but we are not diagnosis. Also, we know that in older people, in general, they have lower rate of depressive disorders, actually compared to young people. Okay, but a much, much higher rate in terms of symptoms, significant symptoms. Okay, in other words, in older adult, it may not. Their exhibition of the depression may not meet the formal criteria for mental disorder type, but they were much more likely to be bothered by these symptoms. And research shows that exhibition of this kind of symptoms, significant depressive symptoms, has many detrimental effects, okay? Including not only affect their quality of life, of course, but also affect their daily function. Okay? And untreated remaining to these symptoms, it has very high likelihood to lead to a full-blown disorder. Okay? So if people have a symptom, like I said, 10 or above, it's better to seek early treatment rather than wait for later, when it gets even really, really worse. So the rate, okay, it's very hard to get a very good rate, the preference. Okay, so this based on a lot of research, they report different preferences. We always know that in rural China, have higher depression rate than urban China among older people. Okay, as you see from here, almost 29% in rural China. As a comparison point, in the U.S., in general, older adult, it's about 8 to 16%, of older people have depressive symptoms. In other words, we are saying that depression actually is quite prevalent in older Chinese adults. Okay? That may debug the thinking, older people, they have family, their children filial piety, so they should not be depressed. But actually, the research shows us a different side of it. Okay, their likelihood of depression actually is higher, relatively, compared to the general older adults in the United States. Oh, what causes depression? Can you tell me? What do you think causing depression?
There's a physiological stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to move it a little bit away from the symptomology, because you're just describing a lot of symptoms. It's I mean, people are physiologically out of whack in certain respects, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it causes
You see
dysfunction.
what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
I mean, symptoms, you can talk about symptoms all day, and it's not going to get you very far. And suppressing symptoms is another sort of cop-out.
Yeah. That's why it's hard to detect. People suppress it, right? Trying to.
No, I mean, unless they deal with the basic underlying conditions that are producing depression. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, the Harvard longevity study indicates that the single most important factor for happiness in life is a strong social network. And Confucius said that himself. He said, surround yourself with a close circle of good friends of superior character.
Yeah.
Well, as you get older, you lose all those people.
Yeah.
If you're the survivor, even in my case, I'm only 67, but almost all of my childhood friends are gone now.
Yeah. 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 It's harder. That's why. Okay. Good.
You
Good
have to
point.
keep making new friends. And if you're in the rural region of China, that's got to be a relatively more difficult
Yeah.
process.
Go ahead.
Well, I heard the head of our Depression Institute say that running is as effective, regular running is as effective in alleviating the symptoms of depression as antidepressant
Yes.
medication. You're not talking about lifestyle at all.
Yes. Very good point. I'll come back to you guys, a support network and physical activity. Those are important protective factors, to prevent us from depression. But why why this person was depressed? Why depression hit this person? Okay.
Chemical imbalance.
What's that?
Chemical imbalance, hormone.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, good point. Exactly. Sometimes it can happen to an individual who had no history of depression, but in old age come up with a depression. Sometimes there's no apparent reasons because it's the biological change in the brain. Okay, that's the reason for depression.
Could it be a nutritional deficiency, a folic acid deficiency?
It could be, yes. But fundamentally, there's some, as I said, it's a disease. It's a brain disease, okay, related to the brain in depression. So there's some change happen. But what caused the change can be many. Can be environmental, can be toxicity, okay, can be nutrition, okay, all kinds. But in older people, there's some, as you just said, there's understandable reason, like there are lots of grief and loss happening, okay. Health is a big factor. Decline of health is, kind of contributing factor to depression. Other illnesses, okay, as I said, diabetes, hypertension, okay, often comorbid with depression. Okay, you may have heard that, people after doing a heart surgery, they fell into depression. Okay, we don't quite understand why, but they may have some common physiological process there. Also, medication is another thing. Okay, some medication can cause depression. Okay, some drugs for hypertension can lead to depression. So, you have to talk with your doctor about that. If you, after taking the medication, you feel your mood change quite a bit, that is something to be concerned about. Okay, so let's move. Treatment. Is depression treatable?
Up to a point.
Up to a point. Up to what point?
Well, it depends on different people.
Yeah.
No, so what kind of the reason would be factors or the trigger? So if it's like a biological, I think it's irreplaceable. You know what causing it? To make yourself younger and younger.
Okay. Good point. Very, very good. But I want to tell you that depression, effective treatment of depression are available. Okay, and it's shown to be very effective in treating depression in younger people as well as older people. Now, there's two primary ways of treating depression. One is through medication. Another way is through psychotherapy. Okay. Antidepressant. There are many types of antidepressants. Okay. And it does not. The different types of antidepressant work differently for different individuals. Okay. Sometimes finding the right type for this particular individual, that's the tricky part. That's the tricky part. So if I want to advise someone with depression for medication, patients, the doctor may need to try and error to see which medicine or what dosage work for you the best. Okay? So that's need some patience. And also, I've worked with older adults who take, okay, it's hard for them, actually many older people don't want to take medication for their depression. Okay? I guess it's good reason because they are already taking a lot of medication. They don't want to get extra. Okay? And also, they're always afraid that, okay, I don't want to get addictive to that. Okay? They think that once you take antidepressant, you have to rely on it for your whole life. And they don't want to do that. This is another myth. Antidepressant is not addictive. It's not like your coffee. Okay? It's not addictive. However, if you discontinuation of the antidepressant you should work with your doctor to do so, to discontinue your antidepressant. Okay, I've also worked with older people who feel that after taking the antidepressant they feel better, so they stopped. Okay, that's a no go. Don't go there. Okay, because even after you get better, you may still need to take antidepressant for a while. Okay, so to prevent it from reoccurrence. In a nutshell, talk with your doctor for a plan to discontinue antidepressant. Okay, never do it by yourself. Even you feel that, oh, I'm good now, I can just do a lot of things, even in that state of being. And usually antidepressant takes time to work, 4 to 6 weeks. So you allow yourself or people you care who have depression 6 to 8 weeks to see the effect. Okay. Sometimes, as I said before, this older person take antidepressant for 2 weeks, did not work. I said, no, I know that, because the depression kick in. Everything is negative. I know it won't work. It won't solve the problem. It's just useless. It's a waste of money. Blah blah blah. Okay. So they stop taking it, and that is, of course, is not helpful because it takes time. Another reason older people don't take antidepressant is about the side effect. Okay. The more recent medication, the most common is SSRI. They have the side effect is minimal and usually it's temporary. But if side effects do bother the person, actually you should talk to the doctor. Okay, there's many type of antidepressant one can choose. Okay, find the one that has the least side effect. So nausea, insomnia, agitation may happen, but usually it's temporary and mild. Psychotherapy, which is, in my area, cognitive behavior therapy has tons, very strong evidence that it works very well for depression, particularly for people with mild to moderate degree of depression. Okay, it works very well. Okay, this strong evidence. Problem-solving therapy and interpersonal therapy also have very strong evidence. Okay, they have go through very scientific investigation that they work. So psychotherapy usually works quite well for mild to moderate depression, but if for more severe depression, the combination of medication and psychotherapy work together is the most effective. Okay, so for severe depression, I would recommend the person, you need medication. Okay, because if you're very severe, psychotherapy is very hard to work. Okay, once the medication stabilizes the person, then psychotherapy can come to work. Okay, so the combination will be the most effective way. Okay, so the third lesson I want to tell you is that it's available. Okay, it works for younger people as well as for older people. Okay, and I'm not just saying it blah to say that, oh yeah, no, it's tons of evidence, randomized controlled trial. Okay, the scientific evidence is there that it works. But I do agree that the tricky part is really find the right fit of medication and right fit of psychotherapy. Okay, the dosage, the type, that's the tricky part. So work with someone that you trust, the doctor that you trust, to find the right combination. And also, it's a long-term thing. It's chronic. So it's like managing your diabetes, your arthritis, or your heart disease. It takes chronic management method to deal with it. So this will involve also self-management part. Okay, in general, particularly for people with depression, these are important things, just like in managing your other diseases, right? Diabetes, heart disease, all these things. As you said, physically active, eat a good diet, have surrounded yourself with people you love. Okay, deal with stress. Okay, don't drink. Depression people turn to alcohol. That's a bad combination. That's a bad combination. Okay. And take medication, adhere to medication, that's important. But I want to, this part, this is important. Why? Because when people are depressed, they tend to withdraw, not doing the things they used to enjoy. Okay? But then they turn to a vicious cycle. Okay? You don't do this thing and you're more depressed. And you don't depress, you reduce more withdrawal. Okay? So make effort to do something enjoyable is somewhat like break the cycle. Okay? I told students and people with depression that enjoyable activity, pleasurable activity is like nutrient to the brain. You get food to your stomach, but nutrient to the brain. The pleasurable feeling. Okay? Trying to break through the cycle. But it's hard for people who suffer from depression. It's hard for them to think of or have the motivation to do pleasurable activities. Okay? So to help people with depression to engage in this part, you may have to start small. Just asking them, okay, before you have depression, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy to do? They may say, I enjoy walking in the park, or I enjoy talking with my grandchild, whatever. Okay? And then identify one or two the easiest thing that the person thinks that he can do at this time. Like, I'll make a phone call to my grandchild, or take a little walk, to the park nearby, wherever. Okay? And then make a plan with that person to do it. Okay, how about this week, Tuesday? Okay, 9 o'clock, go there. You think you can do it? Okay. You know where I'm getting at? Just to motivate, help the person, it has to come from the person themselves to think of one or two activities that he or she enjoy to do. Start with small. Okay? And then after doing that, help the person to realize, oh, he really enjoyed doing that. Kind of focus on the positive part, and then do something further and further. Actually, this is a therapy. It's called behavioral activation therapy. In social work, we do this a lot. Depression and suicide are very much have a good linkage. Okay, older people suffering from depression at high risk of suicide. Okay, I'm going to tell you a tragedy, a sad story, and that's the reason that I came to really study depression and suicide in older adults. Okay, I think it's about 15 years ago. I was in the United States, and my family is still in Hong Kong. Okay, and I received a phone call from my mom, who just told me that my uncle, who's 80-something years old, jumped from the high-rise building and killed himself. And it was shocking. And then I kept on, why? Okay, I could not understand. I cannot understand why. Lived to that age. But when I look back, actually, there's a lot of kind of signs that he suffered from depression. Well, one, he actually had cancer in his case. Okay, he had cancer, and he's an alcoholic. Okay, and he's in pain, and he lived with his sons, and the family relationship may have some issue. Okay, but there are all this contributing. But I haven't seen him for some time, but I do remember in the encounter that he has shown some signs of depression, but I did not pick up at that time. Okay. So what do you do if you suspect someone is suicidal?
I would advise them to learn the transcendental meditation technique.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because that has been proven, for 40 years to not only reduce the symptoms of depression, but to build general health and to decrease suicide. And it's non-toxic, it has no side effects, it's totally beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I do agree, yeah.
Every area of life.
Mm-hmm. But if you suspect someone is suicidal, what do you do now? In the immediate action. I do agree, kind of encourage the person to do relaxation, mindfulness, meditation, that's helpful. But that's kind of in the long run.
takes about a month for,
Yeah.
for the effects to kick in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very long.
Try to get them to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do a suicidal watch, and when you know that they're
Mhm.
definitely suicidal, you need to be watched
Mhm.
24 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's how we taught students, you know. You may think suicide is a very rare event, but after my uncle's incident, and I talked with many people, actually it's not as rare as you wanted it to be. Okay. So the action that we took sometimes can save life if you notice someone is suicidal. Okay. If you suspect that person is suicidal, actually, just ask directly. Okay. Some people think that, wow, you ask people about whether they are suicidal, so you will just, you know, get them to want to suicide or commit suicide. Okay, that's a myth. That's a myth. Okay, research shows that if people don't have suicidal ideation, you ask them, it still doesn't. But if someone does have that kind of thinking, you ask them, you may save a life. Okay. So, 3 level of asking. First, ask about thought. Okay, have you thought about just going to sleep and never waking up? Or if the person expressed, okay, oh, I wish I were dead than alive. Okay, that kind of thought show up. You may just ask them, you know, have you thought about killing yourself or ending your own life? Okay, this is drawn the ideation. If there's affirmative, then the second type of question is all about plan. So how do you plan to do so? When, where, how? Okay, the more specific the plan that's given to you is more scary. Means that the person's risk increase. Okay, so if the person do plan, think about when, how, all these things. This is the 3rd level. Have you tried before? Have you attempted suicide? Why ask this? Because this is the strongest predictor of suicide. Prior attempt of suicide is the strongest predictor. So we taught students, after asking this question, then you kind of assess the risk. Okay, it's no idea, it's low risk. Okay, you suspect, but there is not thought about that. That's fine. It's still monitoring. But if the person has the idea, has the thought, but has no plan yet, or the plan is kind of very rough, okay, and no attempt before, we classify as intermediate risk. Okay, for people in the intermediate risk, what should be done is that to notify the people who are close to that person, like family, okay, to watch for that person. Okay, they still have the intermediate risk, and also arrange our mental health professionals to do assessment. Okay, suicidal ideation is a depressive symptoms. Okay, to do some assessment of that person. Okay, providing support. Okay, and oversight at this point. But if the person have a plan and has prior suicide attempt, that is really, really high risk. Okay, I would suggest you, if you know that, take immediate action because they're saving lives. Okay, you say, I can wait. No, I'll show you a video. It can take a very short time from people alive to from someone killed themselves or herself. Okay, it doesn't take long. So if you find someone to be at high risk, probably accompany with the person to a medical professional emergency room immediately. Okay, don't leave the person alone. Okay, prior attempt, have plan, specific, think about, have the idea. I'm not kidding, this is a serious issue. Okay. In rural China, the rate of older suicide is 3 or 5 times more than the urban China. This happened in the context of, actually, the suicide rate in China is very interesting. It has been high compared to other countries. But then in the past decade, it has declined. Okay, China is quite a story in suicide. You know, overall suicide rate has declined in the past decade. But even in that situation, suicide rate of older people in rural China remain high, remain at the high. It did not subside. Okay, so suicide, elder suicide in rural China is a big issue. I'm going to show you. I apologize. This thing is this video is in Chinese, but it's a short video. Okay, so if sorry, how do I do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot show it because this computer does not have the software.
A quick time.
Yeah, it doesn't work, right?
If it's not on the computer, it won't.
I don't think it has the computer. I'm sorry about that. So the video itself is a story about an older person who committed suicide, as accounted by their family in the rural China. It is a typical story. It's an older person who felt herself as burdening her children, who's ill, and felt burdening her children. Also actually have experienced suicide attempt in the past, but was not picked up by anyone, okay, not by the children. And of course, she's poor too. She's poor, have illness, living in a place, have no access to health care, particularly mental health care. Okay, even though she has experienced all kinds of symptoms, okay, like wrapping up the things to give to people and then telling each of the children what to do, all these things. These are the symptoms when someone kind of after that they are past, packing up, past their belonging, distributing to people. Those are signs. Okay, so she exhibited all this, but was not picked up by her children. Okay, and her death actually, she felt that after she killed herself, her intent was to release the burden of her children. But if you see the children, actually, it increased their guilt tremendously. Okay, increased their guilt because the daughter of accountant said, if I can write, she's just a farmer, it's a person with disability as well. So if I can write a book, I'll write a book. Title is called Love That I Cannot Accept. Okay, so this is a very sad story, but it's not uncommon. As I said, the rate of older suicide in rural China is quite high, okay, for many good reasons. Okay, 10, right? 10 minutes? Okay, good. So that's one reason we want to do something in rural China, okay? If older people with depression were treated, or at least were detected, recognized, and then provided treatment, then it will help or reduce the suicide rate in rural China. However, providing depression intervention in rural China is challenging. Have you been to rural China? Yeah, some of you do. Okay. Some years ago, I was in Shandong doing a study, interviewing a lot of older people in rural China, and I learned tremendously about rural life and about the poverty in rural China. It struck me very, very hard, the poverty level, okay, of older people. Okay? And also struck me a lot is the concentration of older people in the countryside because their children were in the city. Okay? So older people were left with no children support, all of them for a long time, and poor. Okay? They have the land, but they were older, it's hard to farm. Okay? I met this guy who have heart attacks several times, is blind, and the wife was also 70 years old, has just small stature, kind of. They still have to farm the land, and they have no cow to till the land. So he's blind. So what he can do is his wife at the back, and he's at the front to till the soil. Okay? But he has all kind of illnesses, heart disease and diabetes. So he will feel very, very tired, just fell down like that. So, and the house is just bare, nothing there. Okay. So poverty, emptiness is common in the older population in rural China. And also stigma. Don't ignore that. Chinese mental disorder, mentally ill, oh, crazy, ooh. Okay, we have strong stigma, shame attached to these mental health problems. Okay? And mental health care, very far. Psychiatrists, they are rare species in China. Really, I'm not kidding. Okay, maybe 40,000 people, you have one psychiatrist. Or more than that, actually, probably. It's very hard to find. And if they are psychiatrists, where do they like to work? In the city. Okay, in places there's a lot more people who are more prosperous, not in the rural area. Okay. However, in rural village though, every rural village in China has called village clinic, and there's village doctor there. They can access primary care in that way. Okay, so access to village doctor is quite feasible, although village doctor have very little mental health training. So within these kind of challenges, we developed this model. It's called coordinated care model. Okay, and I will talk about this model in a minute. But who we are targeting on? We target older people who live in rural area. They have comorbid hypertension and depression. Why? Why comorbidity? Well, number one, as I said before, they are very linked. Okay, usually people have both. And number two, if you just talk about depression, people will call the stigma thing. Okay, they don't want to come, they don't want to be treated. But if hypertension is a different story, right? Okay, you want to deal with your hypertension, you do. Okay, sometimes mood will affect the treatment of hypertension. So we have to deal with the mood too. Okay, so it's kind of reduce the stigma part of it. And also, we know that treating depression actually helps hypertension a lot, and vice versa. Okay, doctor has told us, okay, dealing with the mood thing really much more better control of the hypertension. So what we do is that we utilize the resources in the rural village and link it up with the resources in the township hospital where psychiatrists exist. Okay, there's psychiatrists in the township hospital. There's geographically distance between these two parts. So what we do is that we build a team of these three parties in the village. So they have the village doctor. Okay, we train the village doctor more about depression. They have very little mental health training. They are much better at dealing with hypertension, because it's one of the core things in the Chinese medical system now is to do with this hypertension thing. So, but they have little training on that. So we train them about depression, about the medication treatment on depression, and about the whole knowledge about depression in older people. And who are these people, aging workers? These are local residents, okay? And they usually have some sort of part-time job with the village. You know, in the past they call 福利主任. They are just those working to help women reproduction. Actually, they're trying to control this one-child policy thing. But now their role is diminishing because we don't care this one-child care anymore. So we train these people we call them aging worker. In a way, they act more like the social worker or case manager. We call them case management part. They are the linkage between the older people in their home and the village doctor and the psychiatrist. Okay. The psychiatrists, they are in the township hospital. Okay. So what they do, okay, the work is working like that. You know, we provide training to the village doctor and to the aging workers. The aging workers, we ask them learning about depression, learning about hypertension, and their role is to go visit the older person, the patient, in their home, okay, and help older patient to adhere to medication, okay, and deal with other life problems, like they may have problem with finance, kind of food, or have problem with cannot get water, okay, or have other family relationship issues that trouble them. Does it make sense? Because these are all hindrance for getting good recovery from depression. Okay, anything that hinder their medication adherence. Okay, so we help them to deal with that, as well as to encourage the older person to live a healthy lifestyle. You know, quit smoking. Okay, do some more physical activity. So that's the aging worker. They go to the home of the person, the older person. Okay, and provide support. You know, through this way is increase the support system of the older person. Okay, and the psychiatrist, the village doctor in the clinic, all those people who have hypertension screen for depression using the one that I just showed you. Okay, if they are 10 or higher at risk, then the psychiatrist come down the village to do a diagnosis. Okay, if it's depression, the psychiatrist will prescribe medication. And the dispense of the medication is from the village doctor who dispense it. Okay? And the monitoring of how will side effect all this is through the home visit. Okay? These two persons, village doctor and the aging worker, because they're in the same village, they meet every week and go through their case. See how it goes. Okay? Whether the side effect, whether they're taking medication, what other barriers are there for them to adhere to medication, all these things. Okay? And then the psychiatrists join the team meetings once a month through telephone, okay, to provide consultation to this group. For example, the village doctor said, okay, this medication doesn't work. You know, it's already 4 weeks, the symptom has not subsided. So the psychiatrist may have to change the medication. Does it make sense? So this coordinated care model, this model actually in coordinated care has been done in the US and is found to be quite effective. Okay? And also it's in the primary care setting. You don't need to go to the mental health hospital. So it's reduced the stigma. So now, this is a 5-year project. Okay? Now it's in the 4th year. Okay? We are using an experimental design. Okay? So thousands of villages, you know, half of them were the intervention group receiving this coordinated care, and half of them is just usual care. Okay? So by the end of the 5th year, we'll collect enough data to see whether it's effective, particularly in reducing depression and controlling hypertension of the participants, study participants. Okay? So now I don't have real data to tell you whether it's effective or not. Okay? But I do believe it's effective. Okay? Why? Because in a prior smaller project we did in the urban setting, in this Hangzhou city, that we have, but in city you have more resources. The nurse is like the case manager, and then the neighborhood clinic, the doctor as the primary care setting. And also in the, you know that in China, in each neighborhood they have a neighborhood clinic. Okay, so we use the neighborhood clinic doctor as the primary care physician to dispense the medication, and the nurse as the case manager, and then the city hospital, mental health hospital psychiatrist as the consultant, same way. And it's so very, very effective. This is the intervention group in terms of depressive symptom. And this is the usual care group. Okay? In that setting, it's very effective. But as I said, you know, in the village, it's more challenging. We have more limited resources. And this is a huge study. Okay? It's funded by the National Institute of Health, a $2 million studies. So we'll see how it works. And I'm going actually in the next 2 weeks, in December 17, to here, because we are coming to the end. We want to expand it. We think that works. Why? Because number one, it really fit into the existing structure, medical structure of China. We don't put this upside down thing, you know, because this already exists. Already exists. We just make the linkage, build a team there, and then provide training. Okay, that's the input. So the cost is very minimal in a way. Okay, these are, for a large extent, volunteers. They did not get paid. Okay, which I suggest maybe we should get some pay because it's hard to retain these aging workers. Okay, but so because it fit into the existing structure, without incur a lot of costs. Okay, and more acceptable to the older people there. Okay, it's just they don't need to go to the mental health hospital. They don't need to be labeled as crazy. Okay, so I think it will work. You know, and the effectiveness of based on the urban setting, I think it should work. Okay, so let me come to closing. What I have talked about is that, number one, depression is not normal. It's not normal part of aging. Old people, as you get older, you still can have a high quality of life. You still can be happy, enjoy life. So depression is not part of that. It doesn't come with the package. Okay, and it's prevalent in old Chinese adult, you know, in depression. And there's tools available to screen depression, and depression is treatable, you know, medication and psychotherapy. Depression and suicide, very high linkage, so watch out for it. And we think that this will work. Coordinated care can be a way to expand to other parts of rural China. That's I'm going to go see all the stakeholders, aging worker, village doctors, psychiatrists, how they think about this model. Okay, how can we expand it to a wider? Now it's in 2 counties in the Hangzhou area. So how can we expand it? That is something we want to test out. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop here. Thank you.